He says, and it came to pass that when Jesus had finished these parables, he departed thence. When he was come into his own country, he taught them in their synagogues, insomuch that they were astonished, and said, whence hath this man this wisdom and these mighty works? Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brethren James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? And his sisters, are they not all with us? Now, that shows us first off that Jesus being the firstborn, he actually had 4 brothers here, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas, and then he had at least 2 sisters. So that's 7 children that Mary had. And he said, we know all of them, and familiarity is one of the biggest killers of faith and power. Because you get familiar with people, people get around people that walk in power, and they expect them to walk, 6 inches off the ground, and expect them to be all this way, and they don't realize. And I thank God for Dr. Summerall. He was the first person that ever showed me that I could be spiritual and practical at the same time. That I could lay hands on a sick and they'll get healed, or I can give them a cup of water. You can be natural and spiritual at the same time. And so he says here, because they had a problem with him, are not all of his sisters here with us? Whence then hath this man all these things? And they were offended at him. But Jesus said unto them, a prophet is without honor, is not without honor, except in his own country and in his own house. And he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. People say right there, see, unbelief. That stopped Jesus. Jesus tried, but he couldn't do it because of their unbelief. It never says he tried and couldn't do it. It says that he could do no mighty works there. Now notice, it says because of their unbelief. But the same story is in Mark chapter 6. So if you run over there real quick, Mark chapter 6, we're not going to read the whole thing, but in Mark chapter 6, verses 1 through 5, it's the exact same story. And there, now notice there though, it says in verse 5, and he could there do no mighty work save. That word save means except. So he could there do no mighty work except. Well, so he did do mighty works. But notice the only mighty work he could do there was that he laid his hands upon a few sick folk and healed them. So even though they had unbelief, he still got the sick healed. The sick are healed even in their unbelief. Now, because that's one of the biggest, most prominent sacred cows that people come up with. Well, even Jesus couldn't heal everybody. And so automatically, though, we see right there, well, now it says he did no mighty works there, except. So he did do mighty works in the middle of unbelief. It says the people were offended at him, which means that when people are, this is one of the things I've noticed, if people are offended at me, they don't come to my meetings. They don't get in my healing lines. Right. Why? They're offended. So I can't be responsible if people that are offended at me don't get healed, because they don't come to get healed. Well, they didn't come to Jesus. But it says that he laid his hands on a few sick folk and healed them. So even though there was just a few, he still healed all of them. Right. Just like he did every other time. So there was he had 100% success. Right. Now, he can't be responsible. In a town where he was at, they probably had about 120 people in the whole town. So if he had 10 people there, then that would have been, or let's say 12, or let's say 15, that would have been more than a 10%. Right. And yet all of them got healed. Right. So you can't be responsible for how many come, but if they come, they can all get healed. So it doesn't matter if there was 3 or 300. It always says he healed them all. That was the standard. Now, the only other, because these are just some basic points that we point out during our Divine Healing Technician training that allow people to see how traditions have built up, because this person's unbelief cannot override my faith. My faith is more powerful than their unbelief. Why? Right. Because God is more powerful than the devil. And if we can't do what Jesus did, then Satan's work on Adam in the garden was stronger than Jesus's work on the cross. So our faith in God is stronger than people's unbelief. I've had people tell me, I don't believe in this stuff. I don't believe in, I don't believe in you, which I never ask them to anyway. Yeah, but they'll say that kind of stuff. And I said, well, that doesn't matter. And they say, I don't have any faith. And again, I got this from one statement John Lake made. It made me dive in and look at all these different scriptures. And they said, I don't have any faith. And I said, that's okay. I got enough for both of us. And so we lay hands, and I tell them, just if you can, just don't, be antagonistic. You know, if you can switch into neutral, That'll work. If you're antagonistic, I can still overcome it if I have enough time. I may have to push a little harder and spend a little more time, but we can still overcome. Now,